In these Parsha videos that I send each week, sometimes we'll learn about a section or a story from the Parsha. Other times we may just study one pasuk or even focus on one word. This week, Parshas Beshalach, I want to learn all about one little letter. Just one letter, but a letter that contains within it some of the secrets of the world. The Gemara Menachos on Daf Chaf Tes Amud Beis. I have the Gemara in front of me. Quotes from Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli. Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli, Rabbi Yehuda the son of Eli, says that Hashem created two worlds. Olam Hazeh, this world, the world that we live in, physical world, and Olam Haba, the world to come, the next world, the world of eternity, the world of the soul. And Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli says that I know that Hashem created one of these worlds with the letter Hey, and one of these worlds with the letter Yud. Now, what does it mean that Hashem created a world with or through a single letter? I'm not sure. But clearly, Chazal and Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli understand that there is some message, some important connection between what this letter can teach us, or what one of these letters can teach us, and the connection to their particular world. Something about these letters teaches us about Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli says that at first I wasn't sure which world was created with the Hey and which world is created with the Yud. But he expounded based on a pasuk from the second chapter of Bereshis, Perek Beis, pasuk Daled. The Torah says, Eila toldos shamayim va'aretz. These are the products of heaven and earth, meaning the world that we live in, this world, Olam Hazeh, behi bare'am, as he, God, created them. But Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli darshans that the word behi bare'am could be read as behei bira'am. With a hey, or through hey, he created them. In other words, he concludes that Olam Hazeh, this world that we live in, was created with the letter Hey, and Olam Haba, the world to come, was somehow, again, whatever exactly this means, created through the letter Yud. Now the Gemara continues and explains what does this mean, how does Hey represent this world and Yud the next, but I'd like to pause the Gemara there for a moment and just put that in the back of our minds. I want to focus today on the letter Yud, and how perhaps the letter Yud can teach us all about what it means to acquire a share in Olam Haba, in the world to come. Let's look at another place in the Torah where the letter Yud features prominently. All the way back at the beginning of Parshas Toldos, Rivka Imenu, our matriarch, is pregnant with twins. She gives birth to two boys, and each of them receives a name. The Torah tells us, let's start with our ancestor, our patriarch, Vayikra Shemo Yaakov. He was named Yaakov. By the way, Rashi says he named him Yaakov, Vayikra in singular. Wouldn't both parents name their son? Why does it say he in singular? According to one explanation of Rashi, it refers to Hashem, that Hashem actually gave Yaakov his name. How did he get his name Yaakov? Well, the pasuk says that when he was being born, V'yado ochezes ba'akev Eisav, his hand was holding on to the heel of Eisav, who came out first. Yaakov was hanging on for dear life to the heel of his twin brother. The Hebrew word for heel is akev, or here written akev, and therefore his name is Yaakov. Hold on a second. The Megala Amukos asks, if the Hebrew word for ankle is akev, then why isn't his name Akev? How did it become Yaakov with a yud at the beginning? Yeah, it sounds a little funny to us to say that our forefathers were Avraham, Yitzchak, and Akev, because we're not used to it. But if that's what it had always been, that would sound totally normal, and Yaakov would sound weird. So how did his name become Yaakov if he's named after the fact that he was holding onto a heel to an Akev? His name should have been Akev. The Megala Amukos explains, I'll tell you exactly where the yud comes from. Look at the name of his twin brother. Eisav is named Vayikra Shemo Eisav. They named him Eisav. Here it's they, seemingly referring to both of his parents, but Rashi says Hakol Karuboken, everybody called him this. It was clear and obvious that his nature was one of Eisav. Everybody called him that. What does Eisav even mean? Rashi explains, Lefi shahaya naase v'nigmar b'sa'aro kiven shanim harbe. He was made, he was completed, he was done. He had the hair of an older man. His body was, as a baby, already fully developed. And the Mefarshim explained that his spiritual side was also born fully developed. In other words, he experienced no growth or development, neither physically nor spiritually. Maybe he grew a little bit taller. But for all intents and purposes, he was already fully developed. He was already fully physically mature. And spiritually, he also failed to grow throughout his life. And therefore, the word na'aseh, or the root word asa, asu, means to do or to make. Eisav was born basically ready-made, already done. The Megala Mukha says, hold on a second though. The Hebrew word for made is not Eisav, but it's actually asui. Ayin, sin, vav, yud. Asui. His name should have been Asui. Again, it sounds kind of funny if these twins would have been named Asui and Akev instead of Eisav and Yaakov. But the Megala Mukha says that's what it should have been. Why is it Eisav, Ayin, Sin, Vav? What happened to the Yud? That's the Yud that got moved over to Yaakov. Asui and Akev became Eisav and Yaakov. The Yud from Eisav moved over to become Yaakov. Why is this so? Why are we moving around the Yud from one twin to the other? Let's think a little bit about what the letter Yud means. Rav Gedalia Shor discussed this in the Or Gedaliyahu. I heard it referenced by Rav Reisman. The letter Yud, here's a little brief grammar lesson, Hebrew grammar lesson. Most verbs in Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew are comprised of root words that are generally 3 letters long. And the tense of that verb changes based on brief, usually 1 or sometimes 2-letter prefixes or suffixes tacked onto the beginning or ends of the word that affect the tense. For example, the word to wear or to clothe, the root is lamed vet shin, lavash. So I can say hu lavash, he wore, hu lovesh, he is wearing, or hu yilbash, he will wear. The letter Yud always takes a root word and changes it to Lashon Atid, to the future, to looking ahead. Hu achal, he ate. Hu ochel, he is eating. Hu yochal, with a Yud, he will eat. We refer to Hashem as Hu haya, he was. Hu hoveh, he is in the present. Hu yihiyeh, with a Yud, he will be in the future forever. The letter Yud represents the future. And therefore Rashi and Chazal and the Mefarshim are bothered, because in Parshas Beshalach, Bnei Israel have just crossed the Yam Suf, and it's time to celebrate and to sing. And we read the famous Shira, the song that we say every day in Psukei Zimra, as Yashir Moshe Bnei Israel es Hashira Azos. After learning that the letter Yud means the future, why does the Torah say, then Moshe and Bnei Israel will sing? Az Yashir? It should have been Az Sharu, they sing. Or Az Sharim, they are singing. Why is it Az Yashir? He will sing. They will sing in the future. Aren't they singing right now? So Rashi has 2 explanations. First, Rashi tries to justify it grammatically and show, well, sometimes in Tanakh we have a few examples where it says something like Az Yashir, but it really does mean in the present. But what happened is it means their hearts inspired them that we should sing. We will sing in the future. And then they began to sing. So really they were singing now in the present, but it can be described as Az Yashir. Certainly one possibility. But in the second explanation, Rashi admits that Az Yashir really refers to the future. And listen to how he explains it. Aval Midrasho, the Midrash on this word says, Amru Chazal Mikan Remez L'Tchias HaMesim Min HaTorah. From here we see a hint, a reminder of the fact that Tchias HaMesim, that the resurrection of the dead, that this future unbelievable time of our existence is mentioned, is hinted to even in the Torah. Because yes, Moshe and Bnei Israel were singing at Yam Suf, but Az Yashir, it was also a foretelling of something to come. It was just a small piece or a taste of the ultimate song, of the ultimate shir, the song that we'll all sing together at the time of Mashiach and Tchias HaMesim, when all those who have passed away are reborn again to sing and celebrate with us. Why were Bnei Israel and Moshe singing about the future at this auspicious moment of Kriyas Yam Suf? Didn't they have enough to celebrate right now? Why were they thinking years ahead to Tchias HaMesim? Perhaps what Moshe was trying to impart to Bnei Israel is the important message of always looking towards the future. And even though they had so much to celebrate the destructions of the Mitzrim, freedom and redemption from slavery, Moshe's reminding them, this is just a stop on the journey. We're heading towards Har Sinai to receive the Torah. We're heading to Eretz Yisrael to build our homeland, to develop a nation, to build a Beis HaMikdash. There are so many wonderful, amazing things that lie ahead, and we never stop building and growing and developing. We lost so many people over our 210 years in Mitzrayim that aren't here to sing with us. But we know also, looking out to the future, there will be Tchias HaMesim when they too will return. And until they return, our celebration is still not complete. Moshe is trying to instill within Bnei Yisrael this midah, the character trait of the Yud, of Az Yashir, of always looking to grow and to develop further and further. The defining character trait of Yaakov is one who has the ability to plan and to look towards the future. Eisav is someone who's content with a good meal, just something to enjoy today, right now, and whatever will happen tomorrow will happen. Yaakov understood the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Ezahu chacham haro'eh es hanolad. Who is truly wise? One who can look ahead and see to the consequences of his actions. Understand and plan and live with the understanding, with the knowledge that there is a future of my own life and of my people, of the world. This really comes to a head in the defining story in the episode between Yaakov and Eisav, when they trade a bowl of soup for the rights to the firstborn, the Bechorah. Eisav says, great deal. I don't need my Yud. I don't need my future. I'm interested in a good stew. I'm interested in a good hot bowl of soup. And Yaakov says, I will trade my comforts today for the future of myself, my family, my people, any day of the week. Yaakov took the Yud from Asui and made himself Yaakov. The defining character trait of the sons and the descendants of Yaakov are that we live with that Yud, we live with the understanding, the belief, the knowledge that there's a future, that we live for tomorrow, both for ourselves and for the entire world. That's why the Gemara says Olam Haba was created with the letter Yud. See, the letter Hey, which created Olam Hazeh, represents the present, Hoveh. In this world, we get very bogged down and focused in what we need right now, the stresses of day-to-day life. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need to take care of this right now. But one who can acquire a share of Olam Haba, somebody who's more focused on the long term, can connect to that world that was created with the Yud. It takes a lot of effort to remove the Eisav mindset and to become a Yaakov, somebody who looks to the future, someone who can be wise and haro'eh es hanolad and understand that my actions today have consequences tomorrow. Dr. Pelkovitz, a well-known and well-respected psychologist who also teaches classes at Yeshiva University, I heard him say on a few occasions when I was in YU, and it sounds so simple, almost cliche, but it's profound and certainly a lot easier said than done. He used to recommend that when making a difficult decision, one should stop, pause for a moment and think, how will I feel about this decision tomorrow morning? Will I be proud of it or will I regret it? There's a lot of things that seem wonderful in the moment, but if I can think ahead just a day, I can realize that maybe it's not the best decision. It's very hard to think ahead to Olam Haba and Tchias HaMesim, things that seem far away and that we can't really exactly imagine and picture. But we all, hopefully, are planning for tomorrow. What will I think about this action tomorrow? What's the best decision? How will I feel about it in just a few hours from now? If you think about it, Yaakov receives one more name in the Torah. He battles with an angel, and at the end, the angel says, your new name is Yisrael. Ki sarisa im Elokim v'im anashim vatuchal. Because you fought, you battled, you contended with God, with an angel of God, and with man, and you were victorious. You were successful. Sarisa means you battled, you fought, you succeeded. And yet the name he's given is not Sarita or Sariel, but Yisrael. Once again, seemingly out of nowhere, there's a little Yud. It's that tiny little letter Yud tacked down to the beginning of his name. We, as not only Bnei Yaakov, but Bnei Yisrael, and descendants who learn from the message of Moshe and Bnei Yisrael standing at Kriyas Yamsuf, have to remind ourselves, during difficult days, during great days, during happy times, and during sad times, God willing, there is a tomorrow. There's a tomorrow for us as individuals, for us as families, as a community, a nation, as a people, as a world. And our decisions, when we come to those difficult decisions that we have to make, the more that we can think about how is this going to affect me tomorrow? How is this going to affect us in the future? The better our decisions will be. Have a great week.